Your mind doesn't know the past. I mean, you create billions of new cells every single day. Those new cells don't care about your past. They only care about now. So you get to rewire neural pathways. You get to change the language you say to yourself. And the mind responds by repetition to the authentic you. To the outside world, they might be extremely successful financially, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are fulfilled on the inside. Being whole is being comfortable in your own skin, being whole and loving your life and being satisfied with what you got. Once you're an adult, you get to change the belief system that you created, and you get to review stuff and say, yeah, that's not true. That's what happened to me, and that was my culture, and that's how my parents were raised, but that does not define who I am today.
Today's guest has not only transformed my life, but has also ignited breakthroughs for thousands of people around the world, including CEOs, celebrities, entrepreneurs, high achievers, and changemakers. Tina Gray is a world-renowned certified rapid transformational therapist, hypnotherapist, and mindset coach, with a rich background in corporate leadership and a true passion for unlocking human potential. Trained directly under the legendary Marisa Peer, Tina was part of the very first RTT cohort and later became the head trainer of the RTT School, where she mentored over 16,000 students around the world. Tina has helped thousands of people break free from fear, self-doubt, and self-sabotage by reprogramming the subconscious mind. And today, she's here to help us explore how we can live more fearlessly, limitlessly, and agelessly. This is also something interesting, right? Like we talk about it's ageless, it's about what we think about ourselves, but how we look still matters so much to women.
I think especially in this filtered world where being older, it doesn't seem to be allowed. It's exhausting to keep up with it. Aging gracefully, I think it's about how you feel. When I work with so many women that are absolutely beautiful, but if they don't feel it, they're definitely not going to be seeing it. You can be the most stunning woman in the world, but if you don't feel it on the inside, you will not show up as that person. When you're comparing yourself to other people, you're taking away your own light. You can take things from other people, qualities, accreditations, everything that they are. You look at what you love about that person or what they bring. But if you can see that in somebody else, and that means you have that in you as well.
So get ready for a conversation packed with deep insights, practical tools, and powerful inspiration to help you rewrite your story and step into the life you were always meant to live. Welcome to Women in the Penthouse, where we share the limitations, celebrate resilience, and prove that transformation knows no age. Join me as we dive into raw, inspiring conversations with incredible women who have rewritten their own stories, and maybe spark the courage within you to do the same. If these stories resonate with you, please subscribe and follow us on social media. Your support doesn't just boost our podcast, it amplifies the voice of incredible women and creates a ripple effect of inspiration. Together, we are building a community that transforms lives, one conversation at a time. So Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I'm very excited to have you here.
I'm so grateful to be here.
I think for this episode, I want to do something a little bit different and special, personal, because I want to take this moment to give myself a little credit for being fearless. Seeing you again, sitting here with you, I think really reminded me how far and how transformational this journey I've been traveling, because it's really not easy to take the courage to show up every day with authentic self, right? And I've been really going through this very transformation year. I think a lot of the reasons also contribute to our special connection. Anyway, really want to express my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to you. Yeah, I guess first of all, we need to let the audience know how we met.
Sure. Yeah. Give it a share, or shall I? I think it's probably up to you.
So 18 months ago, I took the hypnotherapy session in your clinic. So I think it's really incredibly transformational to me. It made me realize the root cause of a lot of my old pattern. So last year, I think it's really transformational. It witnessed the whole process of like Women in the Penthouse, the idea was born and how it developed. Of course, the old pattern coming back. I'm so proud that I made it. So With that all said, I know how incredible you are, and I know how your wisdom, experience, and expertise can bring so much value to this episode. But somehow, at one point, I was asking myself, because I realized I might need to also open some of the vulnerable part of myself in this conversation. So I was like, oh, are you ready? But then I realized this is something, we're talking about the fearlessness, right? This is some moment of being fearless and take the action. So I'm glad we're here.
Oh, thank you. And I think that fearless thing is also about being vulnerable as well. And I think vulnerability is the only way really that we can grow.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being open that you have actually had a hypnotherapy session, and it was a pleasure working with you for sure.
And Tina, you had such a incredible, amazing profile. You were a renowned hypnotherapist around the world, and you are trained by Marisa Peer, and later became the head of trainers of the RTT, the whole RTT School. And you have trained more than, I think, 16,000 students. You worked with high-profile CEOs and celebrities, artists from different backgrounds. Our audience must be interested in how is the journey has brought you here? Who are you? So let's start from here. Share with us a bit about, especially you actually before all the therapist, the coach career, you work for corporate for 24 years.
24 years,
for investment banking. Let's start from here, the interesting transition.
I think most people, when they come out of school, some people know what they want to do. I had zero idea. So I fell into banking. I was temping. And I ended up having a role at Dow Jones Telerate. And from there, that sort of evolved into my banking career. So fast forward 24 years, I've worked in numerous investment banks, ranging from various different ones in Australia, but also US banks. I ended up in derivatives as an associate director. But I have to say, I had massive imposter syndrome. And equally, I wouldn't say that I was the best banker, but I was very good with people. So that's always been my gift, has been very good with people. But I got to a certain point when I had my first child. I was one of the few people, being a woman in that area, I was one of the few people that managed to get a part-time role in that area in derivatives, which is very unusual, and because it's a very pressured job. So I managed to get a part-time role, but basically what that was a full-time role in part-time hours. So I was incredibly stressed all of the time. It was burnout mostly. I was stressed, I was overwhelmed, I had a lot of guilt because I was trying to be a mum. I was trying to be a mum, interested in the terminology there, trying to be a mum, also trying to be the best at my career. And it was incredibly overwhelming. Something had to give. And I was really struggling with my identity as well, which lots of mums, I think, do. But I think being a mum in that industry is incredibly challenging unless you have, a nanny and you had the balance with your husband, etc. I didn't. So at that point, I said, something's got to give. So I decided to have some therapy. I went to a coach, didn't really work for me. I went to see a counsellor, also didn't work for me. And then somebody recommended I went to go and see a hypnotherapist. So with that, I went to see the hypnotherapist. That was Marisa Peer. It must be 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I went to one session, and I can honestly say from that session, I just broke a lot of limiting beliefs about myself.
Before you went to Marisa, so do you know hypnotherapy or?
No, I had never had hypnotherapy before in my life, no. So it was, obviously I was aware of what it was. I had a preconceived idea that it was being out of control and a bit woo-woo,
you mentioned
a bit
you
weird.
Were in quite a bad and anxious situation.
I was, I was. I mean, the key thing, the other thing I did was I dropped 3 stone. And that was the original reason why I went to her, was for weight loss. But I let go of so much more. It was so much more. It was the baggage of my emotional background, which we'll go into later, that I was carrying around with me, and all that emotional trauma, which I released within that session and changed my perception of myself. But hypnotherapy was not something I'd ever been interested in the past, in the sense of I had felt like it would work. But that's the only thing that actually worked for me. So, of course, for me, it's like, if I can do this for me, if this has worked for me, then I need to do this. myself. I mean, I have to say, everybody that I spoke to about it thought that I was absolutely bonkers when I said that I'm changing my career. It's interesting how
You mentioned you were genuinely good at people,
yes,
like
that's always been
connecting
a gift,
with
yes.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start to find that?
Look, I think it comes from years of people pleasing, I think, over the years. I mean, people pleasing, maybe not putting my needs first, and always being very intuitive around people. And they don't teach this stuff at school, right? I didn't know what my gift was when I was at school. Academically, I didn't fit in all the boxes, but I've always been very creative. I've always been a people's person, and that's always been a gift. But I wouldn't say it was something I was aware of until much later.
But you grew up here in UK, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
in Sussex, yeah.
Yeah,
But we
and
moved around a lot. My dad was in the forces, so I was like 2 years itch usually. I'd be moving to different town, different place.
Yeah. That's a big transition from the corporate world. And you once mentioned to me, it's completely like you were wearing the mask.
Yes, absolutely.
In the corporate world.
Yeah. I was wearing a mask in the corporate. And I know lots of people do wear masks in the corporate. We play roles, and I think when I was in the city, I did play a role in the city, and I had the power suit, in my masculine energy, and making sure that I'm guarded, making sure that I show up in a certain way because I had to fit into that environment. But it was quite nice to remove that and just be in line with my authentic self. That was like a weight being lifted. But doing the transition, that was not an easy challenge. That was like I really burnt my bridges in the sense of like I'm jumping from corporate to being a hypnotherapist. I had to make this work because of the fact that I had the hypnotherapy. So I massively invested in it. I believed in it. And I could sell it to anybody because I believed in it so passionately.
Yeah, we'll discuss later how amazing the career turned out to be.
Yeah.
And you later trained directly with Marisa.
That's correct, yes.
So how was that experience?
I joined Marisa, say that again. So I trained directly with her. So I had therapy with her, I can't remember, it's been about 13 years ago. And then after that, I was like, I need to train with you, which she wasn't doing a school then. So she wasn't doing a school. And then she recommended that I went to train somewhere else. I went to the Advanced Therapy of Hypnotherapy, Advanced Hypnotherapy, I can't remember what it is. It was a great course, 6 months training. And then I came back to Marisa after that training and I was like, no, I really do need to train with you. And at that time, she wasn't running the school, but she was thinking about it. So the very first training that I did, I was her assistant. Probably within the year, I fast-tracked to being the head trainer of the school. So it was very fast. And I think that's it. When the stars align or when you are on your right path, it's like synchronicity. Things just open up for you. And I believe the same for you, right?
So if there's one thing you take out from that experience.
I think it's the one thing that I would take from that experience was bravery. I was so brave. I felt, I was really brave. And I really think that being brave and going with what makes your heart sing and knowing that you're doing it with good intention. I mean, it's for service, right? This is to help people. So I think that's the one thing I got from that is that, when you believe in something and you're doing it for the right reason, then doors will open for you.
And pretty sure during the whole your own self-discovery journey and also how you help other people, there are a lot of really like transformational or transition moment, right? So if I want to ask if there's one epiphany moment, like the fundamental change of your own mindset, what will that be?
Interesting question. I think it was the awareness that I'm really good at this. I think it was that awareness. And I remember when I was actually training and I actually had my first client when I was training, and it was a lady that was my beautician. And she was riddled with pain. She had fibromyalgia. And I said, I'm just training to be a hypnotherapist. Maybe I can work with you. And she said, yeah, okay, that would be great. And I did the first session with her. And it was I won't go into detail about the session, but she had such a huge release in the session. And she was taking so many painkillers. And I remember she called me the next day and she said, I woke up this morning and I felt like I was dead. I had to pinch myself because all the pain had gone. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So she was holding on to all this emotional trauma in her body, and she slept and she woke up in the morning and all the pain was gone. And that was like a massive, like, okay, this is powerful stuff. I mean, it's not like that for every client, but that was a real awareness that, okay, this is my calling.
Like you see the real change on people. Yeah, that's really
absolutely
powerful. Yeah, thank you. I think absolutely there are a lot more to talk about your journey, but we will dive into the 3 sections of Women in the Penthouse. Like I've shared, we have 3 keywords: fearless, limitless, and ageless. So let's start from fear, which is your, I would say, expertise. That expert area. So I will start with one question I ask all the guests. How do you define fearless or fearlessness?
Well, fearless, I mean, we are born fearless, which I think is very interesting. We come into this world with 0 fear, which is why, I mean, Marisa says this all the time, it's like why you have to safe-proof the house with your toddlers, because they have 0 fear. So with fear, it's not something that we're born with, it's something that we create from our environments and our perception of our world around us. So we live in our subconscious till we're 6 years old. So that's pure imagination. So up until that point, you know, we are fearless. And then once our conscious mind is formed, we sort of embed certain fears throughout as we grow up. So fears are necessary, they're thoughts, and thoughts create things. So my concept of fear is where did it come from? That's what I look at it as, is where did it come from? Because you've created it. And as we also know, is that fear creates the same release in the body as excitement. So it's really about how you perceive fear.
And it's interesting you said it's all about before 6 years old, we live in the subconscious, pure imagination.
Yeah.
Authentic, worry-free. So like you said, where is, the key question is, where is this fear coming from?
Yeah. And that's and it's like, you know, if I was to ask you consciously, where is this fear coming from? Consciously, you wouldn't know. But I mean, we create on average about 65,000 thoughts a day. And it's impossible for us to remember every single thought. So you've got to think 365 days a year. You know, however old we are, obviously we're forever young, right? But all those years of programming, and some stuff we store, and sometimes it gets stored in, well, it all gets stored in the subconscious, but it's like an imprint. And because we are hardwired for survival, whatever imprints we have then get stored. And what will happen is it will be like, okay, so you'll go into a certain environment and you'll think, your body will start reacting. And you're like, what's this feeling? I've got this anxiety in my stomach. My whole body is responding that I'm in fear, something bad's going to happen. But you don't know quite why. But that's because it's many, many, many years ago. I'll tell you a story, a good one actually, which is quite a good way to describe it. There's a guy that come to see me. He was a corporate guy. He'd basically worked in investment banking for he was in his 50s, so quite a few many years, and he had this fear of flying. And he was actually working for a Swiss bank, so was having to do lots of flights. Anyway, he came to see me, and he's like, it's just getting too much. I don't want to cope with it anymore. And he went back to a scene of when he was 6 years old. So I already knew, I was like, I've got this. It's 6 years old. I know this is the key point. 6 years old, and he went back to this scene, which is so like small in when you think about it. He had this little kitten, and he went off to school. And he came home from school, and his mum said to him, like, unfortunately, the kitten got out and it's been run over. And he was absolutely devastated at 6 years old. And what happened in that moment, he doesn't remember the kitten, but what happened in that moment is he said to himself, if I was here, I would have kept the kitten safe. If I was here, then the kitten wouldn't have died. So in his mind, he's told himself, if I was in control, then I won't feel pain. So that belief then is cemented in his subconscious mind, and as long as you're in control, you won't feel pain. So it was nothing to do with aeroplanes. It was to do with
interesting.
It was to do with actually him not being in control. So then what happened whenever he wasn't in control? His body would tell him, oh no, you're not safe, something bad's going to happen. But he couldn't remember what it was. But in hypnosis, we were able to go straight back to the scene and able to understand where that first belief had come from. And interestingly, when he came out of the session, he actually came out and he was like, was that what it was? And he actually swore and said, effing cat. Because obviously it's not as important to him anymore, but he remembers the memory. What he doesn't remember was the belief that he attached to that memory. And after the session, his wife actually called me and said, oh my God, he's letting me drive the car. So it wasn't just about flying. It was other things where he didn't have control over. So his wife wasn't able to drive, he wasn't able to be a passenger. And also he was flying. So sometimes it's not anything really big trauma. Sometimes it's more about what the beliefs you've attached to certain events and things that go on
That's
around you.
interesting. Those things, like, it's hidden so deep, right? In the subconscious. We really don't realize that. You work with a lot of, I think, people from different backgrounds, like CEOs, like celebrities we mentioned. But everybody has, even they have achieved a lot, but they still have something holding them back. So from all those cases, what is the pattern or common pattern you see?
I don't want to be cliche and say it's not just not being enough, but mostly it is that. Even the people that are very successful on the outside, I haven't worked with that many celebrities, by the way, just a few, but mostly like corporates. But anyone that I see, it's if they are successful, there's a reason why they're searching for that success. And to the outside world, they might be extremely successful financially, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are fulfilled on the inside. So what is that? What's driving them to get that success? And that's what we would work with. Is because sometimes it's like what lies beneath. It's like, maybe I need that external validation. Maybe if I have the expensive shoes, the expensive handbag, the Rolex watch and the big house and the nice car, then people will see me. I'm worth something. I'm of value. But where's that come from? Being whole is being comfortable in your own skin, being whole and loving your life and being satisfied with what you got and loving life and life loving you back is what's really important. You find that lots of people don't feel fulfilled, so they're trying to fill a void with external things.
And it's most probably like go back to 6 years old or 7 years old.
Mostly. I mean, we say, usually it's about 3 or 4 scenes. But generally, there could be more. But once you get those 3 scenes, there will be a pattern. There will be an underlying deep root belief about where this belief has come from. And it can be so many different things. You can't generalize, because not feeling enough to one person will be presented in one way. But I've never had one client that's the same. It's so interesting. People's minds and how they perceive themselves and relationships and how they form beliefs about themselves. And that it can either limit them or it can propel them.
Like, for example, my personal experience, that we find it in the session, like it's because I started to wear glasses.
Yes,
which you remember that?
Now, just as you said that, I remember,
Because before before 7, my mom tried so hard to make me like the last person in this family who has a good eyesight, right? Who didn't need to wear glasses. But I kind of feel like I failed my mom's expectation. So I'm not lovable. So that's a turning point. And also because of, I was told, like that's a limited belief. Like I was told you once you wear glasses, you are not beautiful anymore. And beauty is so important to a woman, like for the whole life. I think it's interesting. And so that's the turning point. I feel like it's always like the first moment, like you mentioned, like all your clients, like 6 years old or 7 years old, we started to feel we need to do something to get love. Which is
absolutely.
really not choose.
And I also think as well, siblings, that changes things massively. Especially with the eldest child or the middle child or the third child. It's the dynamics of the relationship. You've got to think when you first have children, it's quite overwhelming for parents. They don't necessarily get it right all the time. And then they have the second child and everything seems to run a bit more smoothly with the second child. And the first child sometimes can feel a bit disjointed and thinking, okay, maybe I'm not the chosen one. I've got to share their attention. And that could be quite challenging for children, and obviously, it's how you perceive it, right? But every child will perceive it differently. Some people will not have any issues with it.
Then share with us an example, like your client, if he or she is the first child.
The first child, well,
Yeah.
generally, I can give you a client example, like a child that has, who's an elder sibling. I actually can give you an example of a client, a woman actually, she wasn't the first child, she was the first female. So first girl. She had an older brother, but she had massive insecurities about self-worth and being able to be a leader in business. And the reason she had that was because as a girl in her culture, even though she was a second child, because she was a girl, she basically had to look after everybody else in the family. And she also had to serve his dinner. And tidy up, and her dad went to work, and obviously she was at home and she was watching her mum as the housewife, and she learned that certain
That's
things
quite common in a lot of culture, right? Like you're the girl, you need to do all the service,
all the service, acts of service, all the housework. But the fact she had to make her dinner for her brother, who's older than her, she's like, hold on a minute, why am I having to do that? He's older than me. But that became her programming. It was her paradigm. It was her limiting belief that this is all that's available to me. I'm always going to be of service. I'm always going to be the person that's doing the duties. I'm always going to be less than. So that's where it got stuck. So it's very interesting. And then once you're able to break that pattern and actually say, well, actually, that's what happened to you, not because of you, because a child's dependent. A child doesn't have any choices. But once you're an adult, you get to change the belief system that you created, and you get to review stuff and say, yeah, that's not true. That's what happened to me. And that was my culture. And that's how my parents were raised. But that does not define who I am today. And that then allows you to review, again, understand it, and then give yourself a different program of choice, one that's more aligned with who you are today. And that generally is the person right now, because your mind doesn't know the past. I mean, you create billions of new cells every single day. Those new cells don't care about your past. They only care about now. So you get to rewire neural pathways. You get to change the language you say to yourself, and the mind responds by repetition. So the more you repeat this new language and link pleasure to it, then of course you're going to start creating it. You can get to step into the authentic you.
I always feel like it's like try to train your mind, or even be a friend, like just it's always how you work with your mind every day. Like you said, repetition is such a powerful, important. Yeah.
And I suppose it's like, if you think we create like thousands of thoughts a day, and if you think 65,000 thoughts a day on average, and if you think about that, I mean, how many of those would you say, and I'm asking you this question, Serena, is that are positive about yourself?
How many what?
How many thoughts a day would you say are positive about yourself? Honestly.
I think I've been I'm quite lucky. I was born like quite skilled. I'm a positive person, so usually I have this ability to focus on the positive things, but still, that's how we discussed before. I realized this positive so-called attitude actually suppress some of the negative emotions. So it sometimes it doesn't work. Right. Yeah, but back to your question, I think I read this data like we have maybe 40,000 thoughts a day, and 80% are negative.
Mostly.
Most of the people. Right. So, but I also learned like we should not resist that negative thoughts. Just try to see the thoughts and let it go. I think in the past I also have a lot of resistance of because I think, I'm positive. I had this belief like, I need to be positive. Positive always get a good thing. So actually, I have this resistance for the negative ones, which create, I feel like I repress or suppress them to the subconscious. So, just like I think my favorite movie, Inside Out.
I love that movie. I love that movie. It's such a brilliant movie.
I cried when I see those crystal balls. Like she has so many subconscious. Like
such a brilliant film.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's interesting. And you mentioned you were dealing with like people's problem. Like we have different items, things we talk about, like fear, self-doubt. self-sabotage.
Mm.
How do you see the difference, or how they maybe relate to each other?
They can be all sort of intertwined, and they may show up in different ways for different people, but ultimately it's what they present with. I mean, I'd never say, I think you should really focus on your lack of self-worth, or I think you should be focused on your lack of confidence, or maybe your imposter syndrome.
So that's
a presenting issue.
Like the self-worth is the fundamental linking to.
Well, I think it depends what the client comes with. I mean, you would never, whatever the client comes with, we say, okay, that's what we're going to work with. But ultimately, when we get into the session, what comes up, comes up. So, and sometimes, they might highlight everything on the form. They want to work with everything. And we say, no, we'll just focus on maybe one. And then we see the other things might just fall away naturally. If we get to the root cause in that session, we can naturally just work with what comes up. And you can't generalize. It really is what comes up from their subconscious. You can't script these sessions, right? So, I find it fascinating with the fears. But ultimately...
But I mean, like, based on your experience, like, we call self-sabotage, self-doubt, like in terms of behavior, like, do we have different...
Self-sabotaging and self-doubt. Self-doubt tends to be, you wouldn't actually necessarily even start, would you? Because you wouldn't actually be doing it, right? So self-doubt would be stopping you from actually taking the action, whereas self-sabotage is you might start something and then you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, no. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to sabotage it. Like people who start diets, they get to a certain point and they restrict certain foods for a certain amount of time. Then they get to their desired weight and then they go, I'm going to go and buy a cake to reward myself, because so they're sabotaging all the work they've done. That's because the mind's hardwired in some ways to link pleasure to the reward, right? And the reward is the cake. So we have to sort of work with that tweak that belief system around the reward is not cake. Actually, sugars are toxins, chemicals, bleach is poison. That's an old belief system around pleasure with cake and reward. So do you understand what I'm saying? You've got to get to the understanding of where's that belief come from. And that would be probably from being rewarded with sweets and things like that when they were younger, or comfort and love. So that would be a self-sabotaging sort of...
Yeah, it's still the root cause. Like
it's always going to the root cause.
It's always the root cause, like the self-worth thing. Yeah.
And if it's like the self-doubt, it would be like, I don't believe that I can do this. There's something about me that's not good enough. I'm going to compare myself to other people. There usually are key things here around that. We talk about Napoleon Hill and his 6 ghosts of fears, and that is, I can't remember all of them, but I know that one of them is criticism. Criticism is a massive thing. Like if you've been anyway criticized, which most people have. I mean, I see so many people that go back to events in school where they've had to stand up in the classroom and read out loud, and they said a word incorrectly and everyone's laughed. That's traumatizing to a child. Maybe not to an adult, but that gets embedded, and your mind goes, oh, no, you can ever stand up in front of an audience, because if you do, people will laugh at you. And that's humiliating. So your mind stored that, and it's hardwired to keep you safe. So guess what? And if you're standing in on a podium and you're speaking to a board, and then all of a sudden you get this anxiety, sweaty palms, you start getting heart palpitations, the anxiety's back because your mind remembers when you were 6 years old and everybody else laughed at you, not consciously but subconsciously. So it's very powerful. I had a scene actually with a lady who wet herself in front. She was doing a Christmas nativity play, and she was on the stage, and she had an accident, bless her, on the stage, and everybody in the whole school saw her. And of course that's extremely humiliating, and of course that's going to stay, as she remembers it. I mean, how could she ever forget? But she didn't realize that was the main thing that was stopping her actually standing on the stage right now. Once you're able to reframe that, I mean, she's quite capable now of going to the toilet when she wants to. So we were able to look at that scene and say, okay, well, do you need to have the anxiety anymore around public speaking? Because obviously you were just 6 or 7. I can't remember her exact age, but, what would you do differently now? She's like, well, I'd go to the toilet, But as a dependent child, she didn't feel that she was able to to put her hand up. And I know my daughter, and when she's at school, I know.
Sorry, so back to that case, it's interesting. So if she wants to rewrite the story,
Yes.
what exactly like she should say to herself? Remember, the penthouse isn't just a place, it's a mindset. It's about breaking free from limits, owning your journey, and creating a life that's truly yours. Every story we share here is a proof that transformation isn't just possible, it's waiting for you to claim it. There's only one rule to be part of Women in the Penthouse. Believe in your own power to rise, no matter where you are starting from. Because the only thing standing between you and your penthouse moment is the courage to take that very first step. So back to that case, it's interesting. So if she wants to rewrite the story, what exactly like she should say to herself?
Well, this would be in hypnosis, but it would review the scenes, would look, and it wouldn't be just one. There would have been other scenes there as well.
Just take that example. If you said it's humiliating, like when she was like 6 years old, had that kind of traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So, what we can use the right, I would say, the new story.
Yeah. Well, it would
to
be about reshape it. So firstly, we'd revisit the scene. So we have like 3 or 4 scenes. We'd look at the scenes collectively, and then we'd say, do you need to have this anxiety anymore? So we're asking a conscious question to the subconscious mind, okay? And then we review all of these scenes, and we look at them as in like, look, now you're an adult. You know, you of course you were 6. You were 7, you were 8, you were 12, you know, these things happened to you, or you did these things. Do you need to hold these beliefs anymore? So we ask those questions, and then it's up to the client to have the choice to let it go. And then we sort of reframe it in the sense of like, what can you do differently? And they're able to say, well, I have control. I'm able to go to the bathroom. I'm an adult now. I'm not 6. I'm not 10. I'm not 15. You know, I have control, and I have the freedom, and I have a choice. So I'm able to do what I want now. So it's really this negotiation with, a bit like that film, as you said, Inside Out. It's negotiation with
the past.
Yeah, with the
past. And with the mind.
Yeah, with the mind. And we get to rewire it, create new neural pathways. I mean, look, I think the clear thing here is just to remember your subconscious mind is always working with good intentions. It's always working to help you. That's its job. It's not there to punish you. Well, sometimes it can do if that's a belief system. But it's there to help you in the best way possible. So all it's trying to do is to stop you being humiliated. That's its job. So you just give it another job. Upgrade it, give it a promotion, let that part of you that's keeping you from not presenting, that can be, you know, demoted, and then the part of you that's giving you control and confidence and a voice and, you know, self-worth and value, all the things, a promotion. The CEO.
I think that's fundamental. Like, it's just like trust the universe is safe or not.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like trust your subconscious is your good friend.
Yeah.
It's doing a good job.
And
you just change. It's not a big deal. You just change another task to him.
Yeah, and you have to link pleasure to it. So the mind loves repetition, whether it's good or bad. So it also, you know, loves what's familiar. Again, what's good or bad. So you have to make those new patterns familiar by changing the words that you say to yourself. You also have to visualize yourself in that role. So for example, with this said client, you know, we went through the motions of her actually presenting, and I actually did her a fantastic audio around her standing on stage, seeing people engaging with her, listening to what she was saying, people interested in what she had to say, how her body was responding, that she was able to breathe, how she was so excited, how she negotiated with those parts, because again, your body doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. So we switched the chemical reaction in our body to excitement and linked pleasure to that. So she was like, I'm excited. But actually she was quite nervous. But, you know, it changed her belief system. And she presented and she did a wonderful job.
So it's all about creating the new experience, right? If you don't, that's why I think we say it's so important to take that leap or take that move, because if you never do that, you will never have that experience you wish to have. And then the second step is to repeat this experience, like let your mind to get like you said, familiar with it. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first started, I mean, I've trained like 16,000 therapists, but initially when I first started, I was in a heightened state of anxiety, massively.
Yourself.
Oh my course, yeah. I mean, standing up there, I had imposter syndrome. Here I am with Marisa Peer. She's just amazing, and I'm her like trainer, head trainer, and I was like, my God, I'm not that good. I'm not as good as her, and I felt massive imposter syndrome. But I think it's really important to recognize. Well, maybe I'll come to this later, but you can only be you. And everything's a lesson, and you have to go through that to get to the person that you want to be.
Yeah. But you also mentioned, since you mentioned imposter syndrome, we can talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
And we always think it's not good, but you mentioned it's, if you don't have imposter syndrome, meaning you are stuck in your like basic, I would not say basic level, it's just you are not growing.
You're
right?
comfortable.
Yeah, we're comfortable. Yes.
Yeah.
It's imposter is always like we want to be someone, and it could be healthy.
I think so. I think the key here is imposter syndrome. Is when you compare yourself to other people, and I think that's the biggest boo-boo. I think, and I did that for so many years. So I get it. It's hard, but when you're comparing yourself to other people, you're taking away your own light. I think you can take things from other people, qualities, accreditations, everything that they are, but you take those things and you look at what you love about that person or what they bring. But if you can see that in somebody else, and that means you have that in you as well. That's my belief. I think that if you see that in somebody else, that means you've got it in you as well. But don't try and be them. Just fine tune what you've got.
I read one beautiful quote. When you compare yourself to other people, it's like compare sun to the moon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I really have this strong belief that everybody has their unique talent, kind of unique mission here. So it's really meaningless to compare ourselves to other people. But sad in the the traditional like education system and how the social environment we grew up, it's always like we have this kind of benchmark, your cousin, your neighbor, someone who is brilliant, right? Yeah, it's so true. So you mentioned just now about the fear and the excitement. Right? That's also, I think, a very interesting topic because a lot of people say they are actually the same thing.
Yeah.
So how can we change, reframe fear into excitement?
Well, it depends on how big the fear is. I mean, it's tricking the mind into believing that it's excitement, but it's changing the words and the pictures that you tell yourself on a daily basis. I mean, if you're linking fear to going on a fairground ride, if you choose to do that, I wouldn't do that. I don't like them. But it's not that it's fearful. It's a choice. I choose not to. I could do if I wanted to, but I choose not to. So again, if you're going to present at an event, I mean, even today I felt quite anxious because this is something new to me, but I tell myself I'm excited about this. I know I'm getting to spend some time with you. It's going to open up doors for me to speak to and touch other people that might have blocks in their life, and changing that energy around it's not actually about me, it's actually about you. It's about the people that listen that are going to get something from this. And when you switch that, say, actually, it's quite selfish to think about this is about me. This is actually about service. It's about opening up people's eyes and minds to be able to see something different within themselves. And if I could open up a door for somebody, then I think that's a beautiful gift. And when you take yourself out of it, that changes the paradigm. For me, not for everybody. But I think it's about just changing the picture.
Yeah, interesting. It's all about the perspective.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of my friends, she also mentioned that she is afraid of public speaking, but she always told herself like, there's only one person think it's valuable.
Yeah.
Right. She can really inspire one person. That's already amazing.
Exactly.
So that's like you said, it's always changed from like self-centered to like a service perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
And another two term, emotion, I would say. Guilt and shame.
Yeah. Ooh. Guilt and shame. Yes. I think that's lots of people have guilt and shame. Lots of people talk about the shame that they have. It's like the shadow self, right? It's the stuff that sits underneath, that's the subconscious that we don't share, but our actions come up in lots of things that they do. It's something I work with a lot, shame and guilt, Yeah, I mean, I have so many stories. People make mistakes. We're imperfect humans. We're imperfect. None of us are perfect. We have to learn. It's like, what lessons did you learn from what you did? Do you need to carry this shame around with you anymore? Could you forgive yourself? If this was a child of 7 years old, would you want them to carry it around with you for 30 odd years? Do you think you've done the time? Sometimes a prison sentence, for certain things is shorter. It's time to forgive yourself, and that's okay for people to do that. And it gives you that space to be able to be reflective and also nurture your inner child.
Yeah.
It's so important to actually look at that inner child within you and be able to see yourself through loving eyes.
Yeah.
Rather than critical eyes and shameful eyes and aggression or anger, to see yourself through loving eyes, it is such a beautiful gift. And sometimes people struggle to see themselves through loving eyes.
Exactly.
They do.
I think Louise Hay always mentioned the mirror test is so hard for so many people.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad I think I conquered that. I can look at the mirror and say, oh, I love you. But it also it takes me a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it's but sometimes what I usually do with some of my clients is if they have children, that's quite a good way, because they could never say that to their own children. Some of the stuff they say to themselves, they could never say that to their own children. So that's usually a way for them to shift it. It's like, okay, I've been really mean to myself for like 30 odd years. I need to give myself a break, and it's quite empowering.
That's everything, right? I think we were always told like you have to criticize yourself, especially like myself. I grew up in Asian culture. It's typical. Like you have to be harsh, tough to yourself. Then you can grow.
Okay.
I think that's also another limited belief, right? So, so like people grow up, like even we get a lot of so-called achievement, we still, like you said, criticize ourselves all the time.
Is it not enough? I need to do more.
Yeah, it's always not enough. Yeah. The reason why I bring this like guilt, we talk guilt and shame, right? I read one very important, very powerful quote. It's like, he said, shame is about it's like guilt is about the feeling of the things you do. Shame is the feeling about who you are.
Yes. Yeah,
I think this is very intriguing because it also reminds me, a lot of people, for example, have LinkedIn shame. Like, I know even myself, like for a long time, and also my friends, we thought, oh, we are not like the top, like New York Times bestselling author. We are not like the C-level. Like, kind of, you have this shame to even be there, right? It's still like, I think identity, like seeking validation all the time. But I think one powerful moment for me is like, somehow, I think at one epiphany moment, I realized it's not about validation. It's about connection.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, it's always change. I think it's similar to what you said, shift from your self, like self-centered perspective to a service perspective.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's powerful. And we mentioned it's always about 6 years old, 7 years old. So I'm thinking
it can be earlier than that. I mean, it depends, because that's when the conscious mind is formed. I've had people go back to the womb, which is fascinating. Some people go back to the womb, which is really amazing.
So like how when a pregnant mom, how she talked to the baby, right? It's so important.
It's anxiety. We talked about this before, like the generational trauma.
Her own anxiety.
All the anxiety, all the stress, all the stuff that goes on around. I mean, you can hear. I mean, I remember one lady come to see me, and she had this deep-rooted belief that she didn't belong. And she went back to a scene when she was a baby, and she was in the cot, in the pushchair, and she was, and she remembers vividly. This is when you know it's a really powerful scene, and because they're so vivid about the actual pictures. And she said she's in the cot, she's a baby, her ears and all the senses are super alert when you're obviously, a child. But she remembers the little ducks that went over the pushchair, and she remembers hearing her mum say, "I can't tell him that she's not his." And she remembers that. She remembers those words. So she knew that she wasn't actually the father's child. And she remembers those words coming out of her mother's mouth. And it was like, wow, that's fascinating that she actually was able to store that in her subconscious mind. And that's the root cause of her not having this sense of belonging. Another girl that had a really severe anxiety, and this was a really simple thing. And again, it doesn't have to be a massive trauma, but she was in a grow bag, and I've got 2 children. I remember using the grow bags religiously. A grow bag in her cot, and her mum had put the grow bag on and then tucked a cover over the top of it and tucked it in really tight so that obviously the child wouldn't get cold. And the baby, as I told her, she woke up in the middle of the night and she felt like she was paralyzed because she couldn't move, because she was so like tucked in to this cot that she was like, she couldn't move. So she had a panic attack, obviously, as a baby, thinking, I can't move my legs, I can't move my arms, I'm stuck in this cot. And that was her scene, feeling trapped, feeling suffocated, feeling like she couldn't move as a toddler. And I was like, oh my God, I've used grow bags all the time, I'm going to traumatize my children. But that's obviously that's her, that's what happened with her, but it doesn't mean that's going to happen to everybody. But yeah, it is very fascinating what we store.
The key is we need to find that.
You need to find that.
Right?
That's it.
We didn't realize all the time we do something, we think, oh, maybe it's our fault. I cannot do this, I cannot do that. But it's actually that kind of really early years, or even like you said, in the womb, like that kind of root cause.
Yeah, very fascinating.
It's interesting. And so for a woman like our audience who is now parenting kid like around the 6, 7, or even earlier.
Yeah, my children.
So what will you say to them? Like, what are the right way to train or a good subconscious mind of the kid?
Oh my goodness, that's $1 million question, right?
Yeah, I know.
Good luck. That's all I'll say. Good luck. I think I learned this because I remember when I trained to be a hypnotherapist, and I think I'm obviously training all the therapists that I have done as well. I think that you're a human being. You are going to make mistakes, right? You're not a perfect parent, You just need to accept that. What I generally say is
just like we're not perfect person.
You're not perfect. I mean, you do your best. Your best is going to be good enough, but you will make mistakes. I think what I notice is that you won't make the same mistakes as your parents. You'll just make different ones. You'll make different ones, but it's okay. I mean, it's normal, and your children are going to learn from you, and they will make they'll make similar mistakes, and they'll make different mistakes to what you do. But I think that your intention always has to do the best that you can and give them love. But ultimately, I think it's just communication.
Yeah.
It's just communication. Also, I think
fundamentally, it's still the trust that the universe, the world is safe.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, in these current times.
Whatever you
not,
do.
Yeah,
it's important. Like when you have those safe thoughts, you attract a safe scenario, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you have to remember they're watching us all of the time. So I think, what I've learned from having a 13-year-old daughter is, I have to be really careful how I treat myself. Because, what she's watching me and how I communicate with myself.
So what is one best thing you think you
I have affirmations all over the house.
For your daughter?
Yeah, for my daughter, I mean, she's going through the hormone stage at the moment, so I'm counting a lot, even as a therapist. But I think it's about just listening. Not thinking I have all the answers, because I don't, because obviously, I'm way too old to have all of the answers. But she does roll her eyes a lot at me and say, oh, stop therapizing me, Mum. I was like, no, I'm just trying to be here for you. I'm just here to listen. And I suppose I think it's about...
Will you use that therapist voice?
What, with my daughter? No, they don't like my therapist voice.
Of course.
They're not interested in it as well. Yeah, I think... No, I'm not perfect, even as a therapist. And I think sometimes actually therapists probably give themselves even more of a hard time because we're aware, But I think the one thing I do is I communicate. I say sorry sometimes. If I'm wrong, I'm always here to listen. And I think that's all you can do. Just encourage. And obviously I know the rules of the mind. I understand the words and the pictures that you say. So I'm always positive within reason. So they understand that, and actually listening to them without them even realizing they're extremely articulate. They understand, how they talk to themselves has an impact on everything else. And interestingly, seeing my daughter talk. I never say that she gets this from me because she wouldn't have any of that. But she's playing rugby at the moment, and she said, "Oh, Mum, I really want to be like the team leader. I want to be the leader because I really think that the what do they call it? Team leader, not team leader." Head captain, that's it, captain. She says, because the captain that currently is there, she just doesn't do any like mind work. She doesn't tell people that, you need to visualize, you need to see yourself winning, you need to work as a team. She goes, and I think that the team really needs to hear that. And I'm just listening, smirking, thinking, that bless her. She's got that in her. But I wouldn't say, that's because you're working with the mind. And, I just let her get on with it because she's already got it.
Yeah.
She realizes that naturally. So
it's always not coaching her. It's about your being a role model.
Yeah.
And what you do, she's observing and she get that. And this fascinating story from the lady I was literally talking to this morning.
Yeah.
And she said she started this kind of spiritual journey relatively young, 27, 28. So, but because of quite a traumatic event, her mom died at that time. Yeah, it was very sad. But she said that became the transformation point that she started the spiritual journey. And the fascinating thing is she did play all the audios like Louise Hay,
Yes.
like Wayne Dyer, like all the spiritual training, teaching, like at the background when her daughter was maybe only 12, 13, and now her daughter is, I think, 20, but she said she remembered. Like now she can connect back those kind of words or a message she captured when she was younger. So I think, wow, that's amazing. That's like training her subconscious mind, right?
I remember when they were very little, I used to draw with them, and we used to always draw, and I draw trees and things, and we used to write affirmations on them when they were very little, and just write little things on them. And actually, all around my house, I have affirmations because obviously, subconsciously, they're taking in all the information, what they see in the bathroom. I have this affirmation photo with all these different things. I'm powerful, I'm limitless, I'm amazing, I'm lovable, I'm worthy, and in my daughter's room I have it everywhere, and they listen to stories. I mean, when they were very little, they used to listen to like meditation stories, powerful, like encouraging, loving them, to help them change their, how they communicate with themselves. Those sort of things are really helpful. So similar to your friend you were talking to them.
Now let's talk about how the session goes. Like, I know a lot of people really have misperception about hypnotherapy, right? Like they're afraid of being controlled, like managed, like or lose their consciousness. So maybe share with the audience how we really do it. How it works.
I think that there's lots of films out there that don't really help lots of us hypnotherapists. That film Get Out, which didn't really help me at all at that time. Look, people think that it's that you're out of control, and it's not. When you've experienced a session, it's a heightened state of awareness. So you're fully aware of everything that you're saying and everything that I'm saying. And bearing in mind that your mind is hardwired for safety. That's its job, is to keep you safe. And if you didn't feel safe, your mind's not going to go there. So I think there's also a clear line between stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy. So people that go to those stage hypnosis shows, they want to be there. They want to go up on stage. Now, everybody's suggestible to different levels. So if you were to go to one of those stage hypnosis shows, you'll notice that they only pick certain people. So they might pick, and you'll notice sometimes they might have like 10 people up on the stage, and one of them won't be that fun. They won't be doing some of the things that they're asking, and they'll send them back, but they'll pick the one that's really suggestible. So everybody's suggestible to different levels, which is a good thing if you're saying nice things. So what I usually say to my clients is the same as that. Everyone's suggestible to different levels. If you've got anxiety or depression, then you're usually highly suggestible. But the words you're saying to yourself on a daily basis are hurtful, harmful, or critical. And the good thing about being suggestible, it's good if you're saying good things. The good thing is that you can change what you're saying to yourself, because we know that you've got anxiety. It just means you're telling yourself bad things, and your body's responding to the things that you're saying to yourself. So that usually calms people. Also, I think in the session. So we'll basically have a 20-minute conversation about what's life going to be like for you without the problem. Most people are so invested in their problem, they don't actually think about what life's going to be like for them without the problem, because they're so invested in their pain.
I put all the attention,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
All the energy on the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So of course, the more you think about something, the more you get of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So I think I'm really anxious. What are you anxious about? I don't know. I'm just anxious, but I'm just going to get anxious because everything just becomes more anxious. So what's life going to be like for you without the anxiety? I don't know. Well, let's start picturing that already. You're starting to reframe the beliefs that you've got. So you have to paint the picture first. So tell me, how is it going to change it for you? So we paint the picture. It has to be unique to that person. So already you're exciting the mind. You're exciting the mind to the possibility that maybe, there is life after anxiety, or there is after imposter syndrome, or there is after self-doubt. If your mind was to work better for you, what would it allow you to do? Gene Wilder, Come With Me would be the world of imagination. What possibly be available to you if you were able to be kind to yourself and to step into your powerhouse woman, boss lady?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Who will benefit from that? You've got to excite the senses. So that's what we do first, and then we go into hypnosis and we go to the scenes that
That's
when you
almost,
created.
I think, 1 hour, right?
But usually,
you talk around.
Yeah, I mean, they do the work. The
Yeah,
work is usually about an hour to an hour, and it just depends.
Yeah, yeah.
You do with what you need.
Yeah.
You can't just. I don't clock watch.
Yeah,
because you've got to do the work. You can't leave things open. That's quite. I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but it's not fair. If you go to something,
I feel like it's like you're trying to get all the information to organize the story of this person.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you get to the root cause, you understand it, you unpack it. And it's not me, I mean, obviously I'm leading it, but ultimately it's the client that's doing the work. I'm not the magician.
Yeah.
I just help people put their pieces together. So it's like I always say that I'm the facilitator. The facilitator putting your puzzle together to help you get an understanding. And once you have an understanding of where this blocks come from, where this beliefs come from, then you get the opportunity to change it. So then that's the negotiation part. So we negotiate with those parts, with those scenes, those memories, how their body's responding, etc. And then we get to review them and change them. So it's giving them back their power. And then they get to rewrite their story. They get to change the beliefs they've created. And sometimes it can be quite funny. I mean, we actually, I've laughed quite a lot with some of my clients in the session.
Really?
Yeah, because they look at the scenes that come up and they're like, it's actually hilarious that I formed these beliefs. And they're able to think about it in a different way.
It's always like quite emotional, like some traumatic. Oh, okay.
No, not at all. Sometimes they have fits of laughter. They have fits of laughter because they can't believe the stuff that they've told themselves and carried around, for all these years. But also it's a shift in emotion, laughter. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's laughter, sometimes, it can be quite a body convulsing sort of thing. But that's not always the case. But it really is about release. And that's it, just changing the perception. And then from that point, sometimes you may have to do some inner child work.
Yeah,
that does happen. I think we did with you.
Yeah.
And that is reviewing from this point, going back to the child, giving the child the love, the praise that they needed to hear. Maybe they didn't get it from their parents. Sometimes we might do some dialogue with parents or the hurter. We say the hurter. It doesn't necessarily always have to be the parent. It could be anybody. But somebody that's hurt your feelings, we might want to give that child a voice. Maybe that child's been stunted. Maybe that child, one of the sayings is, children should be seen, not heard. That comes up so much. Children should be seen, not heard. And sometimes it's about that child needs to have a voice. What does that child want to say? So we do whatever we need for that person to then step into that future self, which is now. Then from that point, then I record an audio from what comes up in the session. And it's all focused around
That's
life.
also amazing.
Yeah.
I even didn't realize when you did record this audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I record the audio, and usually the audio is about 15 to 20 minutes. And then that audio they listen to for 21 to 30 days. So the audio, we say the mind responds to repetition. It takes up to 21 days to form a new habit, and we say 90 days on a cellular level. So most of my clients will listen to that audio, well, all of them, they should listen to the audio for 21 to 30 days. And sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it can take the full 30 days. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer. Sometimes people need more sessions. It really just depends on whether you get to the root cause in one session. And also the mind loves what's familiar, good or bad. Sometimes even if you get to the root cause, and sometimes they go back into their environment, sometimes it's easier to stay there because sometimes people don't want to accept the truth.
Yeah.
So it's not abracadabra fix for everybody.
Yeah. I feel it's really, I also had a concern before, like everybody, but I feel like it's really so relaxed, I would say, and gentle. And your voice was beautiful and gentle, soft and loving. So I think that's very important. Yeah. It's just like when I think it back, I feel like it's actually like a. I don't know what it sounds scary. It's like a surgery, but it's just like what you took us to that very moment and gently remove that moment. Tumor is a horrible word, no? It's like something, but it is like some traumatic event, right?
Yeah.
And but I know what is the scientific support behind we really put it into a pink crystal ball and leave it to the universe, right? It's the kind of the releasing.
Yeah, well, it's like the
releasing
we call it the
process.
reframe, which is like an NLP sort of process. But it's I always say it's like Pandora's box. You've got all these little boxes, like these identities that you've created about yourself and your belief system, and it's founded on a lot of it. Not to say necessarily lies, but of a child. You've got to think we create some of these ideas about ourselves when we believe in the tooth fairy, when we believe in Father Christmas, when we believe in the bogeyman, when we believe in, all these different things.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we believe about ourselves stays.
Yeah.
It's not as relevant as it was.
I think Marisa Peer mentioned once, she said, everything we acquire, we can let it go.
Yes.
That's very, so all the beliefs we acquire, right?
Yeah.
I have some practical questions about hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
So first is, is there any the best stage of because somebody may be in deep depression or somebody I think when I think myself, I kind of started a little bit on my, I would say, spiritual journey or more self-awareness.
Yeah.
Because before I worked for big companies, corporates, quite conditioned the social environment. And then I journaling, I do a lot of self-reflection, and I still feel like a kind of something holding me back. So that's why I went to the session. It was amazing. So I'm pretty sure there are different stages. So when you see your clients, is there some stage they will get the best result from
I think
hypnotherapy?
You'll find that most of your clients have tried most things and they're still at that point where they just can't get past this one thing. I think the best time is when you really want change and you're willing to invest in the change, because sometimes people just want an abracadabra fix and don't want to show up for themselves. It's not that. You've got to want it, and you can't expect me to do it for you, which is why I would say that I'm the facilitator. So I can give you an understanding, I can give you all the tools, I can give you a great audio, but you've actually consciously got to help yourself, right? You know, which you did. I mean, that's why I think that would be my best advice to you, is not to think that this is ta-da, this is it now.
It's always
I'm going to fix
work.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although we call it a rapid transformational therapy, but it's still the daily work. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to want it yourself, and you have to consciously help yourself. It's like a garden, right? You can't reroot your whole garden, plant new seeds, and have new flowers and then not tend to them. You've got to keep keep tending to your garden. You've got to keep nurturing and watering and loving it and nurturing the seeds that we're replanting. Otherwise, more weeds are gonna grow.
True.
So you have to just tend to the weeds, and there's going to be lessons. There's going to be like challenges. There's certain things that are going to maybe trigger you, and it's about how you are aware, because it's not fixed. There's still going to be things that trigger you, but it's about the awareness. You go, hold on a minute, this is an old pattern. I see this loop. I've been here many times before. What am I going to do differently? Here's the thought, here's the old feeling, but I'm going to catch it. I'm going to catch it this time, and rather than me be reactive or respond in the old way that I did, I've got this
entangled in the emotion,
Yes.
feeling,
Yeah.
trauma, everything, right? Everyday life.
You get to change it. I mean, I have one lady I saw her 5 years ago, and she still listens to our audio every single day.
Oh,
She still listens to our audio every single day.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you don't need to listen. She goes, but I love it. Why wouldn't I? You know, it just makes you feel so great about myself. Why wouldn't I listen to it? And
still
it's like,
give her the energy, right? Yeah.
you know, and that's
Beautiful.
absolutely fine.
So if we always say transformation could be big, but could start with very small things like every day. So
Yeah.
if we want to leave one piece of advice to the audience, like we start to be more fearless today, what is that?
I think the bit of advice I would say about being fearless, I mean, I think we need to have an element of fear. Fear is there for a reason, obviously to help us stay safe.
Yeah.
But I would think it's like, what is the fear stopping you from doing? Right. And I love that, like the analogy of the unlived life. I think it's really, there's a book actually called, I think it's The Midnight Library. I think it's Matthew Haig. But that book is so interesting because it talks about the unlived life. And it's like sliding doors, all the different scenarios that would have happened if only I did this or if only I did that. So I think the first thing is to understand what is the fear. What is the fear, firstly? And then I would suggest, like, what's it stopping you doing? I would then, from that, I would think about like going back to when you were around 6 or 7 years old and thinking about what was it that you were passionate about at that age. I mean, for me, it was drawing. I just loved drawing all the time, you know. And if I was 6 years old and I was going into a competition about drawing, I loved doing, I was so passionate about doing, I'd look at that little girl, that younger version of myself, and say, would I be telling that little girl that, do you know what, don't enter this competition, Tina. Don't do it, because you're going to fail. You're not going to win. And actually, you're not that good at drawing. You're all right, but you could actually be a bit better. So I don't think you should do it. In fact, just stop your passion, stop your drive, stop doing all the things that you want to do, and don't enjoy it because this is not going to work for you. You're not going to do that to the younger version of yourself. So why do that for you now? So with that, how you would talk to your younger self, and then you start come back to the now and then think, okay, so let's go 20 years in the future. This is what I do. It's quite interesting. 20 years.
You stole my question.
That's your question. You're going to ask that.
We always, anyway,
sorry.
Please go on.
But if you were to go 20 years into the future and think about what would you say to you now, I guarantee you it wouldn't be stop. You know, because it's the thing. I mean, living with regret is so much worse than living with with failure. Because we fail all the time. There's lessons in failure. And we get presented with the same lessons until we learn from them. Right? So you just have to take the lessons. Okay, I failed again. If we call it failing, I call it failing forward. Keep failing.
Oh, that's brilliant. Failing forward.
Failing forward,
Oh, this is all brilliant. We have so many.
Sorry, I stole your question.
No, we still have two parts of that. Those are all brilliant. So we move on to Limitless. So it's the same question. When I say limitless, how do you define it?
Limitless. I'm going to direct this at women because I think it's quite important. Obviously, this is for women in Penthouse. And I think limitless to me represents what do you believe is your limit? How far can you go? You know, and that goes back again to, you know, what salary do you think you're worthy of? You know, what's your limit? You know, what is it? Is your title? You know, what is it that you can achieve? Are you going to be director? Are you going to be CEO? Are you going to have your own brand? You know, how much are you going to earn? What's your limit? You know, and that is, what's your belief that you have of your worth, of your value, of your status. And that goes back to, again, let's peel it back a little bit more around, what did you believe as a young child? And I think as women, I judge it from myself. I mean, I was brought up by a mum who was a full-time mum. That was what I learned. I was a full-time mum. My dad went out to work, and therefore I learned from a very young age that was mum's role. That was my job. But what did you learn when you were younger? What was your culture? What was your environment? What was your mum? What were your siblings? What were the people around you? And what toys did you play with? I find it so fascinating now when you think of we're programmed from such a young age. Storybooks, wait for the prince to come and save you from the tower.
Exactly.
Exactly. But also the programming of boys get like trucks and trades and things, doctors' kits. Girls get nurses' kits as well. But, it's always like with the lesser, and it's interesting about that program. So I think with limits, we get to choose the limits. And that's your belief system, as in what do you think, how far you can go? What is your limit? And once you change that and actually become limitless, that means that anything's possible.
That's beautiful and powerful. So from the people you meet and from your perspective, like a limitless person versus someone who always think they have limitation, stuck at a place. What's the key difference, I would say, from two aspects? One is their action, their behavior, and the second is their mindset. What is the key difference?
I think the difference there is belief. That's it. I mean, if you believe you can, it doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are. You can be the most intelligent person in the room. If you don't believe you can, you won't.
No.
And that's it. Obviously I've trained lots of therapists and that, but the ones that are the most successful are the ones that believe they can and put themselves out there regardless of how good they are.
Yeah.
They just keep going. They believe they can. And you ask any athlete, most of the athletes, it's about mindset. They believe they can. They program their mind to make sure that they win it. They see themselves as winning, and I think that's the one thing that's different is someone who's limitless, is that they believe that anything is available and anything's possible.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's think about that, all the breakthrough of human being is created by kind of limitless thought and imagination. Right.
Well, you have to see it in your mind before you can create it in your reality.
Yeah.
You have to see it.
You have to see it, then you can create it.
You can't be it. Exactly.
Yeah. So what is the one limitless thing maybe we can do from daily to change our, because we cannot go to hypnotherapy every day, right? So what's the
advice
daily
to help you daily?
Daily
well, what I do, which I advise my clients to do, is one, to journal. I think it's very important, but also to have a clear picture. So many people work really hard, but don't actually have an end goal. Right. So obviously I know vision boards are very powerful, but I also think it's about being really precise with what it is that you want. So have a clear picture of what you want. So I write out, I studied Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, those principles. I believe those principles, which I didn't even know. I hadn't read that book when I actually went to do the course with Marisa, but that book is the foundation. Is the foundation for success for me, because it takes you through like desire. You've got to have a reason. What's your desire? What's your passion? Then you've got to apply yourself. You've got to imagine yourself in it. So have a clear picture of what it is that you want and say it as you already have it. So for example, I would write my every evening I write out my goal, and my goal is, I'm so happy and grateful that I have. I write down the salary, the people that are going to be impacted, what I'm going to do, because also it's acts of service. Who is going to benefit from what I'm doing? And how am I going to feel doing that? And I write it as if I already have it. And then I take a moment and I visualize myself in that space, already having it, receiving that, and actually seeing smiley faces of the people that I work with and I help. And obviously my children that are going to benefit from everything that I choose, the impact I'm going to make on the world. envision it, because then you're giving your mind clear instructions about what it is that you want. And of course, the mind responds by repetition. So you're creating new neural pathways. And what you'll find, very interestingly, over time, is it just happens. It's like the law of attraction.
It is.
The universe opens for you because it becomes normal. It's just who you are.
And like Neville Goddard said, it's always the feeling, right?
Yes.
The more detailed you can feel it, all the specifics, the details, like just run our imagination. It's fascinating.
And also it's about that. I mean, there are doubts that are coming up. You know, because of course there's going to be fears. You know, the 6 ghosts of fears I talk about in the book as well. It's like, you know, you need to process them. Where's that coming from? You know, you can do that consciously. Like, is this true? Is this real to me? It's like, it's there, but what's it doing? It's stopping me. So you have to sort of negotiate with that part. You have to trick your mind. I say, no, I want this. I love this. This is what's happening. This is my new familiar. You show up as the person that you need to be that, to receive.
Yeah, negotiate is such a powerful good word, because the old patterns always coming back.
Yeah.
Even sometimes you feel, I've come in such a long, I've been through such a long journey, and I'm okay, but still you're coming back. Yeah. It's interesting. And this, I think another side of my question is, to a lot of big dreamer, they do have limitless imagination.
Yes.
But the thing is, when you come back to the real life,
yes,
right? For example, a person is, take my friend as example. He's a brilliant artist, a photographer, and a lot of interest. But still, you got to come back to the day life. You need to start somewhere, right?
Yes.
And also, we know it takes time to build the result.
Yeah. It's called organized planning.
Yeah. I think you also mentioned like there are discipline, like a persistent, that kind of thing. But what is your suggestion like to those limitless people? Like they have a limit, but they still kind of lost in finding their way.
Yeah, well, I suppose, are they really invested in their goal? And is it their goal, or is it what they think they should be doing? And I suppose, you know, not everybody is organized. Not everybody has the skills. And we can't be good at everything. So if you're creative and you have an idea, and you feel like you're missing certain parts, rather than focus on the parts that you're not good at, focus on the parts that you are good at and get somebody else to help you with the parts that you're not. I would say that's a good bit of advice. But also, you've got to plan. You can't just expect it just to fall in your lap. You have to, you know, do some planning around it. It means when I transitioned from corporate into hypnotherapy, I made that happen. You know, that was a 6-month process. Maybe it's about taking steps backwards. So that's the end goal. Maybe we need to go, like, let's do a 3 months. Let's do a 6 month. Let's do a 9 month, so that we can. And what am I going to do in those steps? So it doesn't feel so unavailable.
Yeah. But still trust.
You have
the future is there. Yeah.
And again, all these steps around vision, you know, actually visualizing yourself as having it. I mean, that's very important. But you still need to take action. You have to be disciplined, and you have to invest in time in yourself. It's very important. That's why it's good to have a coach as well. I mean, you can have the hypnotherapy, but it's good to have the mindset coach to keep you accountable, to make sure you do it.
It's so brilliant you mentioned that. That's actually what I want to say next. You know, this is my own experience, you know, after the session. Actually, literally, it's 1 month after our session.
Yes.
I got this idea, women in the penthouse, in my mind. It's interesting. It feels like download from the universe.
Yeah.
And but it was scary, because I supposedly had quite a clear career path. I came here to study art. I should work for the art world, art industry. And so I still have this kind of doubt. But at the same time, I want to mention, because of the hypnotherapy, I think I shared with you 3 months later after the session, I was in LA, the city of possibilities.
Yeah.
So I was feeling that moment, I was really feeling free.
Yeah. Remember
Like
you
the title of
contacted
the
me.
like the
Yeah.
title of the audio you gave me, like
Okay.
Free to be Serena, right?
Yes.
So at that moment I feel like, oh, I am limitless. I can do so in my mind, I can see the picture, I can achieve so many things, like writing a book and doing this podcast and even coaching, speaking, that kind of thing. But now when I look back, back to the point you mentioned, I will, this is maybe advice or maybe a suggestion to, or sharing to the audience. I think we need a coach
Yes.
at that moment. Because when you feel you're limitless, you got to start somewhere and build a momentum there. So I think this stage, maybe we need a mindset coach to give you some clarity and put some priority. And like you said, put some goal like 3 months, 6 months. Then you have a solid plan.
And that's interesting because now, which is nice, is that now I'm not with the school anymore. I'm not sure I've told you that, but I'm actually offering packages, which is nice because I get to see, whereas before I was just doing like sessions and then they'd go and that was it. I wouldn't see them. Now I'm actually doing like packages and I'm actually coaching them as well. So it's really nice to get to really know the person that I'm working with. Then I get to see the end result as well, which is so beautiful to go on the journey with them, you know, for their transformation, which is really empowering. Working with this lady who's moving out of investment banking and she's moving into fashion. It's a massive shift, the same as me. And she's just set up her new company. You know, she's doing really well. And I've been with her throughout that whole journey and she's incredibly talented and so spiritual and gifted at what she's doing, but her heart just shines through and it's so nice to see the whole journey.
So, because I do think it's separate, important. Right? It's always like
it's the same.
The holistic, like the whole package.
Yes,
right?
The whole package. Yeah. And it's just what's nice is because I know her, in like literally her childhood, all of the triggers. It's really nice to be able to see the butterfly, if you like. You know, her literally have wings now, and you know.
I think it's to see that transformation is really possible.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite women on the planet, Liz Gilbert, who wrote, you know her. I think she shared in one podcast, like she said 3 things, 3 truths. Like, first is the universe is safe.
Yes.
Second is what I just said, transformation is possible.
Yeah.
And the third is this is the Earth School, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think those are really some fundamental truths, I think.
Absolutely.
But we were just told some old stories. Okay, and then we go to the last part.
Okay.
My favorite part, like ageless.
Ageless. Okay. So ageless, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I know many women that find themselves, and men, in their 50s. I think there's something statistically that most people make their biggest shifts in life in their 50s and 60s and have their most success. So I think age is just a number. I mean, I turned 50 this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
50 this year. Thank you.
It's this year.
Yeah, January.
Oh, wow.
January, yeah. So I turned 50 this year. And I have to say,
milestone.
I embraced it. I think age is, and I'm not worried. I don't worry about age because I'd rather focus on living, you know, and just being in the moment. And I just think, you know, it's such a gift to have the wisdom that I have now than what I didn't have in my younger years. And I wouldn't change a thing. So I think for women that are feeling that maybe they're past it and maybe it's too late, it's never too late. Yeah. It's never too late to retrain. It's never too late to start again. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to focus on yourself and put and focus on your passions. Because I think in this time of your life, you know, you've got so much more wisdom and choices.
Yeah. Who is your ageless model?
Oh,
someone.
Oh, that's a good question. My mum.
Oh,
I would say my mum.
okay.
My mum. I can't think of anybody else. Who's yours?
I think ageless is always like about the curiosity of life, right? Always that passion.
Yeah.
I
was not
shared
saying
with
a person.
you. Yeah, I just interviewed actually.
Okay.
Rosemary Clooney.
Okay.
She's 73.
Oh, you mentioned her.
Yeah, she's fabulous, and she just started a new area. She said, "I just get started," which is really powerful. Yeah. So what kind of, I want to mention this, your transformation for months. So you do a lot of workout, right?
So
Like
that,
your like workout.
well, that was my
and
goal, 50, you see. So I didn't actually share that with my audience, but
But anyway, we can, let's chat about that.
I did actually, when I work a lot with women, self-image, I think it's very important about how you see yourself, is how you present yourself. And with that, weight is something that a lot of women struggle with, especially perimenopausal women that go through all the different stages of perimenopause. But like 4 or 5 months ago, I thought, I'm working with all these women and I really don't feel very good in myself. So I thought, you got to practice what you preach. You need to get yourself out there, get training. And I did. So I'm going to take everybody on the journey with me, and I started training. And I was like, when I first did it, I looked at some of the videos. I was like, oh my God, you cannot put them out there. You look hideous. I was like, nope, switch that. Nope. You've got to be authentic. Otherwise, people don't invest in people. I mean, all these videos of people with their perfect shots looking amazing, phenomenal. It's not real. People don't want to see that. So I had to just get over my ego and just post these videos. And I don't look my best, I'm not going to lie, but the transformation is very clear. I mean, I think I've dropped about 1.5 stone, since I started it. But it's been so lovely just to get genuine messages, just to say thank you so much for being so honest and seeing that journey and seeing how I've transformed. But obviously the videos every single day was very painful to do in the gym because you feel very vain filming yourself.
But that's inspiring.
I'm very happy.
I look at that, you're sharing almost every day. Right?
I wasn't training every day. I was probably doing it 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow.
But like an hour and a half training.
This is also something interesting, right? Like we talk about it's ageless, it's about what we think about ourselves.
Yes.
But how we look still matters so much to women.
Of course. I think especially in this filtered world where being older, it doesn't seem to be allowed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness, it's exhausting to keep up with it. So aging gracefully. I mean, I think all of us have a little bit, well, not all of us, some of us do, some of us have a little bit of help, Is that a bad thing? Look, I think it's about how you feel. It really is about how you feel. I mean, I work with so many women that are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But if they don't feel it, they're definitely not going to be seeing it. Right? So you can be the most stunning woman in the world, but if you don't feel it on the inside, you will not show up as that person.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting. But what kind of you said affirmation is important, so we should write write it down every day. I'm ageless. It doesn't matter.
I think. I mean, I think you just got.
And also, you mentioned menopause, right?
Yes.
So you did see a woman with a positive mindset. Really experience different menopause period. I see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, there's the hormone imbalances, right? So that's going to massively impact your mood.
Yeah, but the mind still it's still plays the role.
Of course, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, there's certain things you can do to help yourself. And obviously, with your perimenopause, a lot of the time, you don't necessarily want to go to the gym and look after yourself. You don't just want to sit and eat biscuits and feel sorry for yourself or be negative. But there are certain things that you can do. I mean, I went and I did a biohack. It's called Wilby. We did advertise on it, but it's fine. It's Wilby, and they did all my hormones, and I went to the BHRT, and it's been actually really helped me. And actually I did my diet and everything as well, so I know exactly what's going on in my system. I know what foods are good for me. I know how my body's breaking down certain hormones, and just having that knowledge really helped me start myself up. So not only am I working with my mindset, I'm actually working with my body as well. I'm also getting stronger because it's not about how you look. It's about how strong you are. So it's weights. It's doing weightlifting. But also being kinder to myself on a daily basis rather than saying, look at my thighs, look at my belly, look at my bingo arms. I think your body listens to everything that you tell it, good or bad. So you need to catch yourself, as hard as it is, catch yourself before you start and just be nice to yourself. It's like negotiate with those parts, and you can write things down.
Catch it and rewrite it.
Yes. Again, trick your brain. Trick the brain.
Yes. Negotiate with it. Beautiful. Okay, then I think we get a rapid fire round. Oh yes. I say one word, you Give me one word. You
Believe. Gone.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Power.
Full.
Resilience.
Truths.
Boundary.
Boundary. I would say boundary. Trust.
Transformation.
Inner child.
A book that changed you. I know that.
I would say
Think and Grow
Rich.
Yeah. Your superpower.
My intuition.
Wow. A life mantra.
Life mantra. If you can see it, you can be it.
Beautiful. Okay. The question you stole from me. First of all, think about 10 years later. What are the maybe 3 things you want to achieve?
Oh, in 10 years' time, I would like to have financial freedom. I think that's key. I would like to have my children being very proud of everything that I've done. So I think they're my biggest achievement to date. Yeah. So I'd like to be able to, feel them being proud, and I'd like to help more people.
Help more people.
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to be able to. One of my biggest goals, and I've always said it is that my nan, when I was around, my nan was very incredibly spiritual, and she said when I was around 8 years old that I was going to be on a platform. And I thought she meant in a spiritualist church, because she used to take me to those churches all the time. And I was like, I don't want to speak to dead people. But that was my thought then. But actually, like, to be a speaker, I think I'd love to do that. So maybe that's my next thing, is to actually be a speaker. I'd like to change lives, but maybe one to many rather than just one to one. So that would be my goal.
What is one dream? Yeah, you mentioned maybe speakers.
Yeah.
Maybe another one when you were a little girl, you think you still want to pursue now.
I think it's that, being a speaker. I mean, I wanted to be a nun, so that's not going to happen. I did. Yeah, I wanted to be a nun. That was Julia Andrews, so Sound of Music.
So speaking is your passion.
I think speaking is my passion.
I think you'll be such a great speaker.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the question you stole. 3 pieces of advice you give to your 20-year-old self.
Oh, okay. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Everybody's taken.
And
don't be afraid to speak. Trust that you are always guided.
No. It's very beautiful. Trust is really the most important thing.
I think so. I mean, we always have that inner voice. And I think, people talk about God. I mean, I'm not necessarily religious, but I do believe that I have that inner voice that's within me. And I choose to listen to that. And that's my guiding star, if you like. You can choose to listen to the negative voice, but I know that I'm always guided. And I think that listening to that voice more. My inner cheerleader. You
just mentioned it's your superpower, intuition, right?
Intuition.
Inner voice. Yeah. So what is one bold move, like fearless move, you will make this year?
Oh, well, I've already just written a chapter in a book. So I think the next bold move I will do is potentially maybe putting myself forward for a speaking event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds like something really standing out. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Okay, I guess I get my last question is about Penthouse rules. For every guest,
right
at the end,
I
will ask this question because, in Women in the Penthouse, we want to redefine the penthouse life.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, we need abundant life. Penthouse is traditionally like a symbol of the material, right? But I think it's also my experience, and also I think all the incredible stories from other women. When you have a mind of compassion, peace, love, your mind, like today we talk about mind always. We basically talk about mind always. Mind is mindset. Your mind is your penthouse.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
So every guest will leave a penthouse, one penthouse rule.
Okay, one penthouse rule. Practice what you preach. So I think that's a really important thing. It's about being authentic to yourself. I think that's really important. We live in a world where we compare ourselves to everybody else, and we're always trying to achieve, and lots of us wear masks and play roles. I think the penthouse rule, I would say, is just be authentic to yourself, because going forward, it's only your words that you're going to be listening to. Those are the only words that truly matter, are the words you say to yourself. So I think it's important that you're honest with yourself.
That's very powerful. Be authentic to yourself. Okay, so I want to close. There are still three things.
Okay.
I think one is you co-authored a book, right?
Yes.
It will be released May 2nd, I think.
Yes, it's May 2nd.
So it's just this weekend.
This weekend, that's correct, yeah.
And the name is beautiful. It's called
The Circle of the One, Volume 2. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful story. It's like 33 different authors, which have all gone through a transformation, all from different parts of the world, different transformations. And it's just a beautiful collection of different stories and how they've navigated change throughout their life. And it's an act of service. It's a beautiful gift from them to help others. And we've all done we're all so different, and the journeys are so different. And I think what's beautiful about it is the journey and how they can connect with other people, and the lessons that they've learned from it, and how that can inspire other people.
And it's my privilege to read some of the chapters you wrote. It's incredibly beautiful. And you are so open and about your journey, how amazing you've been going through all those pains and transform the pain into the butterfly stage, right? Like the current powerful, strong woman, amazing woman you are. Thank you. You help other people achieving that. So it's really amazing. So I think we will put a link when we release the episode, so people can read a book and find more about your brilliant, wonderful story.
Thank you.
And the second, I know, on behalf of our community, thank you you will give us a surprise gift,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
You will share a audio, like the audio you give it to me. I know how powerful and how life-changing that audio is to me. So I pretty much sure like this will be very valuable and helpful to the whole community. Thank you so much. I think we will also put a link for the release so people can really listen to it. Like you mentioned, your client, even like after such a long time, she still get energy from this audio.
Thank you.
And the last, I think I want to read something you share on social media.
Okay.
What's this? It's really beautiful.
Okay.
I think it's about you finish a very successful case, helping a client really rewrite the story and be the authentic self. And then you summarized here. I'll read it.
Okay.
The journey toward fulfillment begins with acknowledging your feelings of inadequacy. It's about the breaking free from the confines of procrastination and allowing yourself to shine brightly. You are not just your job title. You are a dynamic individual capable of making significant change. I feel it's really beautiful. Okay, thank you so much, Tina.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You shared so much valuable advice, your expertise. I think, it's really amazing.
Thank you.
To spend the time with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, darling.
Thank you. It's wonderful. If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the subscribe button, share it with a woman who needs to hear it, and join us on social media to keep the conversation going. Your support fuels this community, amplifies those stories, and helps us inspire even more women to rise to their full potential. Until next time, keep rising, keep rewriting, and keep owning your penthouse moment. I will see you next time in Women in the Penthouse.